When you buy an M1 Mac Mini, Apple just sends you a box with a Mac Mini in it. That's it. But that means you get to buy some really awesome stuff. Welcome back to Ellis Reviews, and thank you if you have subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, there's the button. Right, hands up. When I bought my M1 Mac Mini, I completely forgot that Apple don't send you any peripherals. You basically get the M1 Mac Mini itself and the power cable. That's it. It's been that long since I've bought a Mac Mini that I completely forgot that you don't get a keyboard and a mouse with it. The good news is that means you have to buy some stuff. You have to buy a monitor, you have to buy a keyboard, and you have to buy a mouse. And you might think, well, yeah, but that's going to cost me more. But actually, as I've said in previous videos, my entire M1 Mac Mini setup is much cheaper than the 16-inch MacBook Pro that it replaces. Over the last few weeks, I've been building this rig that is in front of me now, and I want to show you what I've bought because I think there's some little gems in there, and it might just help you while you're buying your M1 Mac Mini. So this is my current list of favourite M1 Mac Mini accessories. I'm going to start with the keyboard. This is the Iquinix F96, and it is hands down the best mechanical keyboard I have used, and I've used quite a few of them. I did a review recently of several mechanical keyboards, and as I mentioned in that review, which I will link to up here, this is my favourite by a long shot. It's not cheap. It starts at $199 and it can go up to beyond 200 depending on how you spec it up, if you add the RGB lights and all that sort of stuff. I think it's worth it. And the reason for that, it's the build quality. Now I can't get this across on a video, obviously, but it's very heavy, and I like heavy tech because it means generally that it's pretty well made. And yeah, you feel like you could throw this at the wall and it would be absolutely fine. In fact, the wall would definitely come off worse. So construction-wise, a very well built piece of kit. And I think they've really kind of married that function, design, and just aesthetics thing brilliantly with the F96. Now again, I mentioned this in my mechanical keyboard shootout, that I know nothing about mechanical keyboards, literally nothing. All I know is that they make a lovely noise. That's it. I like the sound they make, and I like the feel of using them. I just enjoy typing. It's an enjoyable experience, and it has made me a better typist. So I would advise looking beyond the obvious Apple options here, and if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, get yourself an F96. They are brilliant. If you want to spend a bit less than that, I really highly recommend Keychron, who do some fantastic keyboards as well. Again, check out my previous review for that. But yeah, the F96 is my current favourite keyboard ever. Logitech MX Master 3. I've been a trackpad user for years, for as long as I can remember. I think the last time I used a proper mouse was when I was using Windows PCs back at my old place where I used to work. So switching to a mouse was a bit of a change for me, really. But I'd wanted an MX Master 3 for quite a long time, and that's because it's a very highly regarded mouse in the tech community and also among creators. And it's got two things which make it brilliant, I think. The first thing is the ergonomics, and I don't hesitate to call this mouse ergonomically perfect. That's a big statement, but you have to get it in your hand to feel how good it is. It's just, your hand wraps around it perfectly. It's got this kind of ridge here where your thumb goes, and it just feels lovely to use, really, really enjoyable. The second point, and probably the more important benefit of the MX Master 3, is the fact that you can customize its functions and its various buttons, of which there are many, to work in different programs. So for example, in Final Cut Pro, I have got it customized to do a few things like zooming into the timeline and a few other bits and pieces, but it will switch its settings depending on which app you're using without you having to do anything. You know, you set them once in the MX Master 3 app and then off it goes. Super convenient, and it has completely transformed the way that I edit videos. It has really sped things up. I'd never thought I'd call a mouse addictive, but this one is. Next up is my huge 34-inch widescreen monitor that is in front of me. I've spoken quite a bit about this. I've done a review of it as well, which I will link to, but it's just a complete game changer when it comes to productivity. And I was worried about it because when I went for the M1 Mac Mini, I'd basically let go of a Retina screen because I wasn't really using the 27-inch iMac anymore. I use it occasionally, but not very much. And obviously the Mac Mini was replacing a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which has a Retina screen. Now the MSI monitor that I went for doesn't have a Retina screen. Its pixel density is lower than Retina. The result of that is that it looks a bit fuzzier. Basically, you can see the pixels more than you can on a Retina screen. And at first, when I first got the monitor out and set it up, it was a bit of a disappointment. I felt like I'd stepped back in time a little bit. However, and I don't know if this is partly because as screens are used more, they kind of bed in a bit more. It might be something to do with that. But as time has gone on, that has become less of an issue. I think the main reason for that is just the amount of screen real estate you get from an ultra wide screen monitor. It's absolutely phenomenal. This one has a 100Hz refresh rate. It's technically a gaming monitor, actually. Someone told me off for that in the comments a little while ago. I don't care. I don't think that matters. I've got it connected via HDMI if you're interested in it, and the Mac Mini drives it quite happily at 100Hz with that, and it's just brilliant. I do miss the Retina quality a little bit, and that's why occasionally I use the 27-inch iMac, but the MSI monitor is just a brilliant match for the M1 Mac Mini. When you bear in mind that the M1 Mac Mini lets you run so many applications at once without worrying about it, the fact that you can have up to 3, a push 4 apps on the screen at once on this massive monitor, it's, as I say, I've said it several times, but it is game changing. It's also not very expensive. I think I paid £350 for the MSI. You can spend a lot more than that, but I would recommend easing yourself into the ultra widescreen game if that's what you're planning on doing. At some stage I'll upgrade, but for the moment, it's fantastic. Very quick mention for the Logitech webcam that I use. I can't remember when I bought this. It was a long time ago. You can still get it, I think, on Amazon. If you can, I'll link to it in the description. But it's 1080p and it's streets ahead of what's on that iMac, what was on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's better than what is on the MacBook Air, the M1 version. And it's just a workhorse. It works brilliantly. The quality is great. Like I say, it connects via USB-A, really simple, plug it in, starts working. And I've not had an issue with it at all. Unless you don't do any video calls, which these days is rare, you will need a webcam for your M1 Mac. I would recommend Logitech. I've used some others, I've tested a few others out. None of them beat this Logitech, which I've had for years, and it just works. I did a review a little while ago of a Satechi hub / stand for the M1 Mac Mini, and I really liked it actually. And the idea really is that you have this little platform on which you place your M1 Mac, and it gives you front-facing USB-A, USB-C and an SD card slot, which is amazing. Since then, I've swapped the Satechi for a product from a company called AGP Tech. Now this is slightly different. It's the same principle. You put your Mac on top of it and it gives you front-facing ports. The difference between this and the Satechi is that you get 3 USB-A. You don't get any USB-C on the front at all. So it does take up one of your USB-C ports at the back, which is a bit of a downside. Although you can connect it via USB-A as well if you want to, but you still get that SD card at the front, which is fantastic. It's not designed quite in the same way as the Satechi. It doesn't fit quite as well. It fits flush, but you have to line it up, whereas the Satechi has a kind of ridge where the Mac Mini conveniently sits within it. However, there's one big advantage that the AGP Tech has, and that is a built-in slot for an SSD. And that basically means you can hide an SSD within that case and instantly add to your Mac storage. Now I went for the 512 gig storage option for my M1 Mac Mini, which is enough for me, no problem at all. But occasionally, because I move around a lot of big files like video files and stuff like that, it's just nice to have a bit more space to play with. And the fact I could just bung a SSD within that little hub and connect it at the back of the Mac Mini is just fantastic. It's great. The only thing to bear in mind is that the Mac Mini treats this as an external drive, and if the Mac Mini goes to sleep, it disconnects the drive and you get that warning message about disconnecting a drive without ejecting it. I'm a bit naughty. I don't let my Mac Mini go to sleep. I tend to leave it running all the time, so that doesn't really bother me, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind. And if you're interested in which drive I added, I went for a 2TB Crucial MX500. If you've read my blog, you know I'm still waiting for a Mac Mini of some description with more ports, but at the moment, this is a great option. It's not a bad price either. You can get it for about $80, I think, at the moment, which is pretty good actually. Obviously that price increases as you add an SSD, but actually it's probably still cheaper than adding to your storage from Apple's prices. So last on my Mac Mini accessory list is desktop speakers. And admittedly, I'm more of a headphone guy these days while I'm working, which is why I've been building my own audio file setup recently on here. But I just wanted some kind of speaker setup on the desk. I did have some KRK Rocket speakers on the desk, but a little secret, they were never connected. I haven't used them for years. I love them. They're actually down there at the moment, but I haven't used them properly for years. And they're too big. They take up way too much space. So that led me to the Kanto YU2 desktop speakers, and they're superb. They're not cheap. I think you'll pay about $219 for them. There's a couple of things I like about them. One is their size and the build quality. The ones that I have are a kind of gloss white finish. You don't get loads of bottom end from them. You're not going to get a lot of bass from these speakers. But what's really impressive is the stereo separation, the detail, and it's just a pleasant sound. It's great. Now, admittedly, I have added to my Kanto setup with their sub. They offer a 8-inch subwoofer, which is sat beneath my desk, partly because I do like a lot of bass. Now, I don't really recommend you do that unless you've got the budget to spend. The sub, I think, was about $280, so you're talking quite a lot of money for a desktop speaker setup. If you just want a decent sounding pair of speakers that don't take up too much space, The YU2s on their own are fantastic. They've got a built-in DAC as well, digital to analog converter, which means you just plug them in via USB, done, and they sound fantastic. So, have I missed anything? They are my accessories. I do have other things connected to the Mac Mini, but they're the key things. And I've not mentioned things like external SSD storage and stuff like that. I'll get into that on another video. These are the things which I use constantly throughout the day. But what do you love with yours? You know, if you've bought something recently for your M1 Mac Mini that you absolutely adore, let us know in the comments. If you're still in the process of buying your M1 Mac Mini but you're confused about which one to go for, keep watching for a link to my M1 Mac Mini buying guide. Thank you as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.